Salutations and welcome. Today we're going to be taking a look at Vergil's first Eclogue, lines 75 through 78. But first, last time on Vergil's Eclogue. And there you have it. Here's our rubric. Everything that we're looking for is to go through the text. Let's get started. Non ego vos post hoc gueridi projectus in antro, dumoso pendere procul de rupe videvo, carmina nola canam, nan me pascente capellae, florentum citissum et salices carpetis amaras. There we have it. Very first word is a negative, and that's a wonderful way to start. But that's not very important right now. We need to find our verb, and none of these three are it. Looking through here, we have a prepositional phrase, but still no verb except for projectus, which is a perfect passive participle. So US there tells us that this is nominative, singular, and masculine. And since it's off of the fourth principal part, that T helps us right there. We know this as I said, perfect and then passive participle. It's going to be talking about our subject, who we know to be I, nominative singular, but that's still not our main verb, so we can't do much yet. We need to continue. All right, nope. Here is an infinitive, pendere. So RE, present, active, infinitive. Here's another prepositional phrase, and finally our verb at the very end. We did both, so that's going to be a first person singular, future, active, and indicative. So then, now we can go and work back through this entire thing and figure out what's going on. So I myself will see, but I myself will not see. And then with the very first object right there, vos, it's going to be an accusative, plural. Post hoc is an adverb and just means hereafter. So then plugging that in, I myself you need to remember that that's plural, so that's going to be both titulus and amaryllis. You hereafter, comma. Now we can handle this clause right here. Viridi is a third declension adverb, adjective. And so then we know that this I right here has to be dative or ablative. It needs to be modifying something. And here we have antro with that O. That's, I think, antrum, entry. So it's going to be neuter. And this is also going to be dative or ablative. Within, it will have to be ablative. Neuter. All right, and then projectus, it means to throw in, to hurl in, to abandon, to reject. And considering Meliboeus' current state, I think I'm going to go with abandon, because that will really fit his mood the most, and would probably be a ideal word for using talking to Tityrus to really express how he feels about things, and on top of everything else he said. So I myself will not see you hereafter, having been abandoned, and then it'd be in a green cave or in a green crevice. And this one can stand for all of the different shades of green. And I don't know exactly what that means. Maybe mossy, lichen overridden, something like that. All right, moving on. Dumosa. Dumosa here is an adjective, and that A gives us a couple different options. However, the singular options for nominative don't work because we've got ego already, and we know that Meliboeus is masculine, so that's out. So then we just have neuter plurals. So we need to move further forward, see if there's anything for this to modify. Pendere, yeah, that doesn't work. Procul, it means far, at a distance, to a distance, from a distance, something like that. So we'll have to work on that in a bit. De takes the ablative as its object. So then, technically, Dumosa could be modifying rupes, if I'm remembering the forms of that correctly. And I think this word is in a feminine, and that's something that I'll have to show with a note, because that's one of the things that I forgot to look up. But at the very least, the prepositional phrase does end here. So Dumosa, if I'm correct about rupes, could be modifying it. However, where is the object in here to go with? Pendere, because we already have I will see you, not hereafter. And then it looks like we've got a second thing going on here with pendere. I will not see you to hang, or I will not see that you hang. What? No, that doesn't make any sense. So instead, what we have to have going on here is that Dumosa is not modifying rupe, but instead is acting substantively. Dumosa means bushy, or something with thorns, and as a substantive, we would take that as like a thorn bush. Now, as I said, it could still be from the bushy rock, but then why would Tityrus be doing that? That doesn't make any sense. Meliboeus doesn't wish ill of him, as far as I've seen from the text. It looks more like they were friends, and Meliboeus has come hoping for some commiseration, but I don't know. So I'm going to take this as a accusative plural neuter, and then that as itself. Okay, so then we would repeat, I will not see. Okay, from far, from a distance, far away. I think we're going to go with from a distance. An indirect statement with accusative subject and infinitive verb. And then we would translate this participially, or is that even a word? Or as an indicative instead of the infinitive, since we have the indirect statement. Thorn bushes, hanging. Yeah. From the crag. Okay, and I think that would just mean that he would no longer see the familiar sights, the bushes on the crags around where he lives. All right, so we move on. Carmina nola canam. Here we have am as our ending. This is cano canere. It's a third declension. That's declension conjugation. So with am as the ending, we have either a future or we have a subjunctive. And I don't think subjunctive makes as much sense here. We don't have anything, any particles or things like that to indicate it. Now, he could be asking himself a question. May I see, or it's not may I sing, but then with nulla, that doesn't make much sense, because nulla means not any. Carmina, Carmen, Carmina, it's a neuter, so this one has to be accusative plural. So the question form, as I said, I don't think it works because of nulla right there, but future does. I will sing no more songs. Okay, then we come to something a little bit more complicated. Non me pascente. We have a participle here in the ablative case. And it's masculine with me because we know that Meliboeus is still masculine. Present, active, and not indicative. Participle. So then looking at me, well, we can handle this by itself, but then the rest of it we need our proper main verb. May, of course, can be an accusative singular or it can be an ablative singular. Since pascente is ablative, I think may as an ablative as well makes the most sense, in which case we would have a ablative absolute. All right, so with me feeding, while I'm feeding, since I'm feeding, because I'm feeding, something along those lines. So we can then plug that into the rest of it once we know the greater context. So, capillai, florentum, quitusum, et salicis carpetis. And here is our verb. It says carpo, carpere. It is, so we have a second person plural. And this looks like a present tense. It's active and indicative. And then we need to find now our subject, which looks quite likely to be capillai with the AE. It doesn't have anything to own, and it wouldn't be owning that. That doesn't make any sense. So, nominative plural, feminine. And the non tells us that carpetis is a negative. And then they have to be, this means to pluck off, to graze, to select, something along those lines. So they have to have something to do that to. And here at the beginning of this part of the line, we have florentum em there. That's accusative clearly. This one is also accusative. You have a conjunction which has to connect two of the same types of things. There is only one verb in this entire thing, so et cannot be connecting to clauses. Instead, it has to be connecting an accusative to another accusative. So then that tells us what the case of salices is. All right? And then our last word, amaras, that as right there, that also looks like an accusative plural ending. And it could be a verb, but then we've already got one right here. So I'm going to take that as an accusative as well. Now I need to write all that down. All right, accusative, singular. This one is this is, I think, another one of those. I think this is the third one now that we run into. One of them genuinely, one of them only, depending on the time of when the Latin was used. But this is a common gender, which is probably why we have em instead of in s, as we might expect with a neuter. So, accusative, singular, common, accusative, singular, common, and with that nt, we know that this is actually a present participle. Okay. So this means, as you can probably tell from the stem flora, it means to flower, to bloom, to blossom. It can also have the idea of prospering. And then salices is a feminine word. And then taking a look at amaras, that as there confirms for us what that is. All right, so then a catisum, that is a clover, or what the dictionary says is a lucerne with an E at the end. I have no idea what that is, but it's got to be some sort of plant. The other option, and I think this one came from the commentary, is that it was trying to read my notes. Medicago arborea. And if any of you know anything about plants, I would love to hear from you to know what that is. But each of these three options are something that was used for feeding animals. And I think at least one of them, maybe the last one, again, according to the commentary, is unhealthy for other plants somehow. I don't know. All right, so you will not with me while I maybe win. But win, I would expect a coon clause. So, yeah, not sure exactly which of the different options for this ablative absolute we have here. And carpo carpere, it's just present. You are not. Unless, maybe this is, in fact, a future. Because if I'm correct about carpo carpere, then we shouldn't expect an E, we should actually expect an I. So, yeah, error right there. Future. While or with me, feeding, while I was feeding, maybe. Oh, she-goats. He really likes his goats. You will not seize. You will not feed. You will not graze. And then we'd say graze on. Flowering. I'm going to go with clover, since that's the one I actually know. Clover. And then salikes is a willow, and then amaras, that just means a bitter or a pungent. And since I've never eaten willow, I don't know. But probably pungent. And there ends that. So if you are interested in looking up what the other options are for this, let me write down how they're spelled. Yeah, it looks like arboreal medicine or something. So those are the two other options as translation for kittisum. Well, and there we have it. Thank you very much for joining me. I hope taking a look at this has been helpful for you. And then I hope that you join me in our next Vergil's Eclogue part, which is the very last one for the first Eclogue. And I'm not sure when this is going to be releasing. As you can tell, finishing this while still stateside. I wanted to make sure that I finished at least one project before I left. My flight actually goes out tomorrow. So, yeah, again, no idea. But the current plan, and I'll repeat this in the next video, probably at the beginning, is that I'm not going to do the next Eclogue until I return to stateside, which means the earliest you should expect it is maybe July of 2020. Maybe. I do thoroughly intend to continue. I really enjoyed reading this. And I think a large part of that is because I truly feel for these guys. Well, Milliboys especially. So there's that. Again, thank you very much for joining me. I hope you have a very good life. Wale. What? You're still awake? Why are you still here then? You should be reading a book. Or if not reading, you should watch one of these other videos. Please like, subscribe, leave a comment. See you next week.